Yo, 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 what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today I wanted to touch on I guess a change from the latest update on the Behemoths. This is something that has now affected the alliances when you're going out to capture a Behemoth for the first time. There's been a change that was noted here in the system update, or I guess system mail for the recent update here, 1.0.11, everything must go. If we scroll down to an improved alliance system, this is 2.3. In the interest of balance, you can only receive one occupation reward when purifying behemoths who confer the same buffs. So an example is that if we look at the Hydra, you can see here that the buffs this one specifically has is Legion Attack and then the Alliance Member Limit. Now, the Alliance Member Limit is consistent, so that's not really the buff that you want to look at. It's essentially the buff aside from the Alliance Member Limit capacity increases. In this case, it would be Legion Attack. What this means is that if you want to go try and attack another Hydra that specifically had Legion Attack and Alliance Member Limit +3, you would not be able to get the first occupation reward nor the damage ranking rewards. In this case, now you would go look at another Hydra, and this one you can see has Legion Defense. So this is one you could get. Now, there's a certain number of behemoths in every zone on the map. I actually have a spreadsheet that has every single one of these mapped out. This is my everything COD sheet. You can find a link to this in the description, pinned comment down below. And it has all the behemoths that are listed here in every zone, along with coordinates and what specific buff they're getting. So as an example here, let's say you're an alliance and you wanted to get the participation in the damage ranking rewards for the first time capture on every giant bear that you could. Well, if you look at this, you'll notice there's research speed, build speed, overall gather speed. You can look at every single one: overall build, research, build, overall research, build, research, overall research, overall build. There's only 3 types of varied giant bear behemoths, which means that if you're a new alliance and you're looking to go out and capture these, you would only get those first occupation rewards, right, for up to 3 of the giant bears. And that's really what we're talking about here. Now, yeah, you'll still get the bonuses. You'll still get the buffs, right? Like the research, the member cap increase. You'll get those. But only for each unique buff per behemoth will allow for you to get the participation and the damage ranking rewards, right? So that's the kicker here. And as always, right, if you guys enjoyed the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. And if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit up the Discord. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment description right down below. And remember, new videos are coming out every day at 14 UTC, in game time, 9 a.m. Eastern. I guess out of game time, if that's the other way to say that. Now, with all of that in mind, what I wanted to touch on is just to talk a little bit about what some of those complications can have come up, and just the idea, the thought of changing this up, right? So if we try to look at this objectively, right, why would the developers limit the amount of rewards that you can get as an individual alliance? Part of it is that they're probably looking at trying to have some alliance diversity on the map, specifically in the starting zones where you're trying to spread the amount of alliances that can capture these behemoths, therefore trying to increase engagement and activity with the amount of players that are starting out in the kingdom. However, right, I will give you an example of a possible workaround here. What happens, and excuse the nose, congestion is super intense right now. What happens if you are having an alliance that, let's just say, makes multiple alliances, and all they do is flag out to these behemoths, and then they just switch from one alliance to the next alliance that they already own, and then they go ahead and grab those behemoths by simply switching their accounts. Now, is the update account dependent, or is it alliance dependent? Right? So that's something we'd have to find out. But that is one example of something they could do if that was allowed. Oh, of course, that would have to be tested. And I'm curious if anyone has tested that. I'd love to hear. But that's an example of one way you can do it, right? Another way you could approach it is maybe the alliances don't care about the first occupation rewards. Maybe they will still go out and attack these behemoths to cancel out those free participation rewards because they just want the buffs and they don't want to wait to get the buffs. So you also have to think of it like that, right? Because remember, buffs stack, right? So you could grab, 10 giant bears that all have, plus 3% build speed. Now you're at 30% plus build speed. So just something to keep in mind is that even though you're coming out with this system, without a thorough explanation, which is really important, it does not guarantee that the player base is going to follow what we would interpret as us reading in between the lines on your possible intent. However, on the other side, it may deter some alliances to say, you know what, it's not really worth me attacking. Let me let someone else get the free rewards, and then you know what, then we'll go ahead and attack it. Right, so then we can get the buff. That's one way to approach it, because there's no guarantee that the alliance that may really want it is just going to let that other alliance have it after the occupation rewards have been captured. Maybe, like we said, some alliances just may not care if an alliance gets the free occupation rewards. Now you're just letting free rewards go down the drain. So I guess all in all, what I'm trying to say is I just don't believe that this change comes from a place of complete or full understanding when it comes to the player psychology of why a player, why an alliance, why leadership within an alliance may or may not choose to go for a behemoth lair, regardless if they get the first occupation award or not. That is something that I think is really important to have a good understanding of, even though I think that when you look at where the developers are coming from, they're coming from a place of good intentions. They're coming from a place of, they want more alliances to have an opportunity to capture behemoths and have that opportunity to enjoy the game, participate in the game, and do more things in the game with their alliance, right, before they're potentially weeded out, right, if you're looking at it in kind of a worst case scenario. And so I think because of that, that feels as though a part of where this change is coming from. However, do I think, like we mentioned before, that I think, where I think this change itself is something that is going to be coming from a place or may really have the type of impact that the developers hope, and I'm sure may think it will? I just don't think so. I just realistically, I don't think so. I mean, I feel as though I've played in enough kingdoms, in multiple different kingdom builders, and players have specific tendencies. However, some players, right, it doesn't mean that everyone has the same tendencies, but players will have specific tendencies when it comes to certain situations. And in these situations, there is nothing stopping an alliance from saying, we do not care if we get the first occupation award, because, if you think about it, first occupation awards is a short-term gain. A long-term gain that they're going to get better ROI from is a buff. Why? Because that lasts as long as they have control of the lair. So, I think it would have been different if the approach for this was the developers coming out with an explanation or educating. I just don't think that it's enough to say, right, if we go back to the mail, you can see here, I just don't think it's enough to say, in the interests of balance, right? That's just not enough of an explanation or a description. If you really want the game to be balanced, then you have to educate people. You have to inform people. You have to take a more active role in what you're hoping for your game to be, and then if it is to be different than other kingdom builders, right? Set that standard, set that precedent from the beginning, from the onset, where you have a great opportunity to do that now before the game goes into global release, right? And so for me, that's what I would look at as an important chance for the developers and for their dev team / game team to come out and do. Instead, it just feels as though, we're getting a change because of balancing, but we don't really know what that means, right? We can infer, we can guess, but without hearing from them directly on what that intent is and why they even want to do this change, it's just one of those things where it just kind of leaves us up to more guessing than I really feel is needed. I don't think there's anything wrong with them coming out and saying, look, we don't want our game to be like these other games, right? This is how we want our game to be. Or even just saying, hey, this is what we would hope Call of Dragons can turn into. Even if you don't want to compare yourself against other titles, right? At least be able to stand up for what you believe in for your game and the faith that you have in it, to say, this is what we really want our game to be. And this is why we want it to be that way. I don't think it's wrong for developers or others to reference things in other games that they've seen, right? Regardless if they view them as a pro or a con, right? Those are learning experiences. So anyways, that's that's my view on it. And like I said, I just don't think that the change really needs to happen. I think it's one of those things where, you let alliances do what they must. Now, do I think that this is a bad change or it's the worst change ever? No, of course not. I just don't think that the change is going to elicit the type of response across the board in a way that's going to have, kind of a global game impact that the developers maybe hope or think that it will. And as I said, it just really comes down to understanding player psychology, which is that you're banking on the idea that they're not going to care about, you're banking on the idea that they will care about participation rewards when you've now taken that away from them, right? So now the value isn't necessarily in participation rewards for alliances that already have captured 3 giant bears. Now the value is in accumulating as many buffs as they can as quickly as possible so they can use that advantage to get farther ahead, therefore negating the care for participation rewards. And what that means is that now you'll end up having other alliances and other players lose out on those because those potential occupation rewards will now go to waste. Right? Because the thing is, the idea is that it's not a guarantee that it will elicit sharing, right? Remember that. You may not get that type of response from every single alliance where it's, oh, hey, we can't get these first occupation rewards, so we're just going to share this and let someone take it first, and then we'll take it after them, or we'll give it to them and let them keep it. There's no guarantee those types of things are going to happen. That's my point. It doesn't mean that they cannot happen. It's just not likely that they will if an alliance truly wants to get ahead and they don't really care about those things within their region, which, again, there's countless examples of that across other kingdom builders where you literally have single alliances that want to control an entire province, sometimes even 2 alliances that want to control an entire province. And when you think about the amount of behemoths that are within a province, or in this case within a region, you could arguably have, 7, 8, 9, 10 alliances that each have 3 of these. So again, right, and then obviously as you advance in other regions or advance to Zone 2, right, you're going to have multiple behemoths there as well. So again, these are just things that, again, if you enjoy my perspective, my approach on how I think and logically approach the game from different ways, then again, you'll enjoy, hearing me talk about this. I mean, I just think it's a really important area to make aware, to discuss, and to have some good quality back and forth. Some of you may agree with what I'm saying. Some of you may disagree. What I can say is I've been very thankful and fortunate to be in a position where, I've had an opportunity to see things from multiple sides. And this is just what I really believe. However, you may share a differing opinion. Regardless of what side or line you fall on, or if you draw your own line, I would love to hear what you think in the comments down below. Again, we'll have to see how it plays out, right? At the end of the day, we're in beta. Them making this change, we'll have to just see how it plays out, right? Is it going to be something that will play out the potential way that they're hoping, or at least it feels and seems like they'd like to? Or will it not, and alliances just won't care about sharing, and they're just still going to go ahead and take what they want to take, and then you're just going to have first occupational wars that are just lost to the ether, right? Time will tell. With that in mind, though, that's it for me. So as always, right, I will catch you later, and until next time. Is that right? I'll see you guys later. I feel like I just forgot my ending there. But you know what? This seems like a good time to stop. All right.